All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the 5th episode of the NEXXTCAR Racing League podcast. Unfortunately, Streamlabs was messing up today. I was unable to add any visuals, and then we tried to get Tennessee's and Nick's broadcast coming through onto this screen as well, but nothing was cooperating. So unfortunately, you're just gonna have to look at this screen the whole time. But we are joined by we are joined with Nick and Tennessee. What's going on, guys?
How you doing, Ronnie?
I can't complain. I just wish Streamlabs would cooperate a little more here today.
But hey, I mean, once it gets going, we got a couple of good things in store for you guys in the future. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good today, Ronnie. Hope you're doing good as well.
Absolutely, and a brand new time and day here for the podcast. It was on Wednesdays with everyone's work schedule. We had to switch it to Mondays here before the Cup race, so we don't have a whole lot of time, guys. So let's jump right into this week's episode with our first topic. We do have 2 weeks we've got to make up for. We did not have a podcast last week because of the work schedule change. So let's get it started here with the Truck Series race. They did not race at Auto Club, but they did race at Vegas. Let's start it off, Nick. What were your thoughts here in their second race of this early season?
Yeah, and with Kyle Busch in that race, I thought it was going to be, Kyle Busch show, but all those KBM trucks were really strong all night. They were up front and, ended up being Chandler Smith, beating out Kyle Busch at the end there. It was a really good race. Good racing all around. Trucks always have a good race every single week, so not surprising there. I love watching trucks, so overall it was a good race, and congrats to Chandler Smith on a win, and it was a big win for him early on in the season. I think he'll definitely be in the playoffs, obviously, but probably going for a championship this year. So there's a few names out there that are being pretty consistent the first two races with Daytona and Vegas. So we'll see. Still early. See how it goes the rest of the season, and we'll keep looking at that every single week. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Chandler Smith. Well, the guy finds himself leading the standings right now after these two races. And he's got some people that are kind of interesting up there with him. He's leading Tanner Gray by 5 points. Tanner's in second. Then you got Ty Majeski back in third, 15 points. And then a guy that I really want to point out is someone that I was really kind of upset that he didn't get his Cup ride this season. But that is Matt DiBenedetto. He's currently sixth right now, only 29 points behind the leader. So he's still up there, finding himself up there. You got Hossover in seventh, Matt Crafton back in ninth. That's a little interesting from him. And then you got Austin Wayne Self up there in eighth. So some surprising guys up there in the top 10 after the first two races. Tennessee, what are your take on these opening races here for the Truck Series?
It's been a pretty interesting start for the trucks. Like Nick hinted at Vegas, I mean, you have Kyle Busch in the field, and most people probably just circled him. Okay, it's another Kyle Busch win. I know he joked about, like in the race, he said John Hunter got the good stuff, but I don't know how true that is, but it was pretty crazy to see Chandler Smith use the move that Kyle Busch used earlier on him to end up winning the race. And a lot of people don't talk about it. Like, Chandler Smith is really coming on. You look at the last the handful of races the truck's done, dating back last year, and this guy's won 3 of them. So, I mean, he's on a heck of a run right now, and, all of us really kind of pointed John Hunter being KBM's true flagman. Foreign trucks this year, like y'all have talked about with Matty D and a couple guys, Tyler Gray, is that his name? Tanner Gray?
Tanner Gray.
Tanner Gray. Yet again, there's a couple big surprises so far that near the top of points. So it's early. We've had a couple of guys have bad luck, and we've kind of had a couple of draft tracks so far. But it's been a very interesting start in truck so far. It's definitely going to be an interesting season if they keep this up.
Absolutely, and you mentioned about maybe before it was the whole talk of John Hunter Nemechek having the better equipment, and then now Chandler Smith. You got to kind of question that. Well, John Hunter finds himself back in 10th right now. So not exactly the
Mm-hmm.
start to the season that he was really hoping for, especially last year. I mean, the man was on absolute rails last season. Couldn't get the championship, but the dude just he was always up there at the front and one of the top ones that you had to fight for that win.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those guys I look at having a little bit of bad luck as of late. I mean, just at Vegas, he got wrecked out in the last lap, and he had been running top 5 all race long. So his time will come. I'm not too worried about John Hunter. He's a guy that I really respect what he did in his career. It's a gutsy move to leave Cup and do what he did, go back down to trucks to try to prove himself. I wouldn't be too worried about him just yet.
Right, and then the other.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, Nick. My bad.
with John Hunter, like he had a really good season last year, and now with it being just 2 races, I don't see him having a huge slump. It's just you go to Daytona, and if you wreck, you're off to a rough start to the season. So, and then Vegas, got crashed again. So his finishes for the first 2 races were 24th and 25th. And so he's got an average finish of 24 and a half. But his average start is 1.5. So he definitely has a speed and qualifying and everything and in the race. It's just trying to stay up there and not get into trouble. With Matty D, it is a little bit surprising, but with him being in Cup, I wish he got a Cup ride. They wanted dash him and everything, but I think he was a mid-pack driver. Definitely deserving of a Cup ride over some other people that are in Cup now. And it's just disappointing that that no one wanted him. This is definitely surprising, or even an Xfinity team not wanting him. But at Daytona he finished 10th, and Las Vegas he finished 6th. So he has an average finish of 8th right now, and his average start is it's all right, but he's having good finishes. He's finishing the races, which is first step and most important. So I think as long as he remains consistent, I think he'll be fine. It's just he's got to keep it going. And then Ty Majeski, he was always in kind of rough equipment or decent equipment, but with him being over there, I think he obviously is showing some speed out of all those trucks at Thor Motorsport.
Absolutely, yeah. Going back to Matty D, I mean, he's got back-to-back top 10 finishes here to start out the season. That's something he didn't really get to experience a whole lot in the Cup Series. He had a couple good races here and there. His most famous, obviously, was Bristol back with Levine Family Racing right after they announced that he was out of a ride at the end of that season. He was able to get up there, and he battled for the win there. Unfortunately, he did not get it done, finished second. But it's good to see him kind of take that step back. I know it wasn't his choice, but to take that step back to the Truck Series, kind of hopefully rebuild that confidence and work his way back up to the Cup Series. And if he continues to run like this, I'm not saying Hendrick or a top tier team may get him a ride, but he may find himself back up out there in the Cup Series with a better team than the Wood Brothers was. I mean, you got Front Row Motorsports. They're not as good as Wood Brothers. They're a step behind them a little, but I mean, that is a great opportunity to really show what you have built yourself back up into. I mean, look at Michael McDowell. The man is always at the front. Granted, it's restrictor plate racing, but the dude is always up there in the top 5. He won the Daytona 500 2 years ago. Just the right place at the right time. So maybe this is probably, in my opinion, the best thing that could happen for him in his career.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's a good reset for him. I know there was several times where he had really good finishes at Bristol and other tracks, and he was always up front at super speedways, battling for the wins. And I always thought, he had a chance to win a super speedway and had, put himself in good positions the last several years and just never worked out. And I think his confidence level, was always a thing. It was always the confidence in himself to do it. And I think this is a good reset to go down to a lower series and hopefully, get an Xfinity ride next year with a good team. Maybe with Gibbs or something, because I know he has run a race for Gibbs, I think, a few years back. And we'll see. I hope he, succeeds in truck and is a championship contender. I think he, is really deserving of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like,
go ahead then.
Matty D is a guy that a lot of people are already starting to write him off. Like, his career's over. A lot of people tend to forget the dude's only 30 years old.
Right.
And we see guys in NASCAR drive well into their 40s. So I know this team's a somewhat newer team. It's a smaller truck team, but the fact that so far he's showing good speed and running honestly better than I really expected for that team so far. I think that's a pretty good sight for the future. If Matty D can keep it up, if he can, find a way to make the truck playoffs, and he doesn't necessarily, I don't even think Matty D has to technically win this year. That'd be big for that team. But if he can run consistent and show that he still has the skills, I wouldn't write Matty D's career off just yet, by no means.
No, absolutely not. I mean, he's faced adversity basically his entire career. He never had that quote-unquote safe ride, really, until he got to Wood Brothers. I mean, he was always with underfunded teams, Levine Family Racing. What are some of the other teams? Wasn't he with BK for a little bit, too?
He was with BK. Yep. He raced for, not Live Fast. What was the 32?
Yeah, Live Fast.
No, he did.
Was it Live Fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in the 7 car, too.
For Spire.
Yeah, he raced it some, you're right.
No, not even Spire. It was Tommy Baldwin.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it was smaller.
So dude knows that, nothing is given in this sport. Nothing's a guarantee. So, yeah, I think this is a huge opportunity for him to really kind of showcase, hey, you guys wrote me off in the Cup Series, but my career is not done.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's move on to the Xfinity Series. Those guys have raced 2 races since we last did our podcast. Currently, right now, Noah Gragson is your points leader there. Ty Gibbs is second. But let's start it off with the race at Auto Club, Nick, with the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, that was also a good race. Auto Club produced some really good racing. It was Cole Custer's show, though. I was on the fence about it just because, Custer is good in the Xfinity cars, but that car is a smaller team and, has that partnership with Stuart Haas. But, to be up there running up front the whole race pretty much was a little bit surprising. He definitely had the speed in the car and was the one to beat all race long. But, yeah, it was a good race.
What you got, 10?
Yeah, like Nick said, Auto Club race for Xfinity was super exciting. You had stuff going all race. You had Anthony Alfredo at the end on new tires, make his way through the field. And really, we didn't have that red flag, I think Anthony Alfredo might have won this race. Luckily for the field, that red flag kind of evened the tires out, get them cool off. But it was super exciting. Like Nick said about Cole Custer's a guy we could probably sit here and talk about for 30 minutes because he's really confusing. The guy can get in an Xfinity car, even if it's a smaller team, and go out and win. But then in Cup, we get to Cup, and then he runs usually around 20th. Yeah. So really confusing about him, especially, and he'll do that even if his teammates are all doing well. So little confusing guy, but heck of a race. The guy I want to mention real quick is Trevor Bayne.
Oh, you bitch.
Because, that's my boy. Trevor Bayne, it was super awesome seeing him back out there. Yet again, just like Matty D, he's only 31 years old. this guy still has plenty of time to come back into NASCAR and make somewhat of a career. So the fact he went out there, first race he's ran in years, and finishes third, and we even won a stage in this race, huge props to the guy. I hope he continues getting these opportunities, and we just might see him full-time one day in an Xfinity or Cup car. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, he did come back and then get a ride with Joe Gibbs, which is obviously one of the top teams in Xfinity. But yeah, like you said, this was his first race in years due to MS. So it was great to see him back and then to finish third. I mean, that's a very impressive feat there. I didn't watch the Xfinity race at Auto Club, so that's why I'm not really adding a whole lot to this. I'm kind of relying on you guys. But it seemed like a good race. I did watch the highlights a little bit. But, yeah, it just, like you said, Cole Custer's one of those interesting guys that, I mean, the team he's driving for right now down in the Xfinity is not a top-tier team in that the 07. So, and then, like you said, he comes up into the Cup, and he's just consistently mid-pack.
Yeah, it makes me worried about him. I'm starting to believe maybe he's another just an all-guy. Maybe that's his home in Xfinity. I kind of hope not because, I mean, him and Briscoe are kind of the future at SHR, but we really need to see some improvement here probably by the end of the season, really, before we can really rely on him on Cup. This is kind of a big year in Cup for him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And someone else that is – were you going to say something, Nick?
No, you're good.
All right, well, someone else that's having a big year is the guy who won at Vegas this last Saturday. That is Ty Gibbs. Let's move on to the Las Vegas race where Ty Gibbs found himself back in victory lane. Now, something I really want to talk big about with Ty Gibbs is his aggressiveness early on in the race. Lap 3. He clearly had an extremely fast car. The dude started in the back. On lap 3, he had worked his way up into the top 15. Coming out of turn 4, made contact with the back of Ryan Sieg. Sieg was unable to save it and went up into the wall. I think Ty Gibbs has a great future ahead of him, but his aggressiveness is going to set him back a little bit. He honestly reminds me of a young Joey Logano, and how aggressive he was when he first joined NASCAR. So where do you guys kind of see Ty Gibbs in his racing etiquette, I guess?
I'm not entirely sure. Like every race, he's been aggressive and has one of the best cars on track. I'm not sure if it's just a maturity thing. He's so young, and I'm sure on those, ARCA or smaller, late model tracks, like you got to be aggressive and move people. But these bigger speedways, like sometimes it's best just to, wait it out and take your time going up through the field. And right now, I just feel like it's a maturity thing. He's young and probably, it's just learning over time. So he is, without question, going to be a star in NASCAR. And he definitely has some growing up to do, but he has the talent. He can drive the car. And it's just, I think it just comes with time of knowing what to do in certain situations and whether to push the car or not. But yeah, that's what I think about it.
I can agree with that. What you got, Ten?
Yeah, Nick pretty much hit it on the head there. He's a guy that just needs to mature a bit. Like you said, on the Ryan Sieg thing, I mean, it's very clear that 54 is one of the quickest, if not the quickest, car in Xfinity. You're quicker than the 39. You're on lap 3, and he really forced the issue there and really ruined Ryan Sieg's day. So you just got to learn stuff from that. Like, I think he had another incident later in the race where I think he did something pretty similar and caused somebody to get into the wall. So he's just got to learn that even though you're quicker, you got to have patience. You can't get these guys mad at you, especially this early in the season. Because like Nick said, I mean, he's a future star in NASCAR. I mean, he's got the backing and everything, and he's got the talent. So there's no doubt in my mind we're going to see him in Cup one day in a Joe Gibbs car. But before he gets to that point, he's got to learn how to race with more respect for other drivers. And right now, we're not really seeing that.
Oh, most definitely not. And yeah, it's gonna come with age, I believe. But at the same time, like you said, you don't want to be aggressive this early on in a race, and you certainly don't want to be this aggressive this early on in your career, because these guys are gonna remember this for not just the rest of the season, but for many years to come. So, and Joey Logano is a prime example of that. Like I mentioned earlier, the dude has had several run-ins. Matt Kenseth, just several. Logano, or not? Yeah, good God, Chase Elliott. So these guys are going to remember this for many years to come, and it could potentially take your career on a road that you don't want to become. You're going to become eventually the big rival of these guys on the track.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But
one thing I do want to mention for Xfinity, though, is I want to give a couple nods to some guys. John Hunter Nemechek actually had a really good speed in that Xfinity race, even for the small team in the 26. He was running near the front. Ryan Ellis for Tommy Joe Martin had a top 15 finish for a small team. So, I mean, that's really impressive. Even Kyle Sieg, even though, the team captain got wrecked out with all that drama, Kyle Sieg's usually a guy not running well. I mean, he brought it home in 16th. So, a couple of nods there. Always respect and love seeing the small teams do really good. The one guy at Xfinity I'm a little worried about right now is Matt Snyder. We saw him wreck in Daytona, had that bad wreck, and then he's had no speed the rest of the year so far. So, kind of hoping that 31 gets rolling here throughout the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nick.
To piggyback on that, a couple more things on the Xfinity series before moving to Cup. Noah Gragson is the points leader right now in front of Ty Gibbs by 17 points. Noah is on rails right now. He has 3 top 5s, and his average finish is 2.3. He's finished 3rd at Daytona, 2nd at Auto Club, and 2nd at Las Vegas. No, that car has definitely got some speed. The whole JRM cars, they all have speed right now. Even the 8, Josh Berry, I'm looking for him to his second season in Xfinity and full time this year. No, he got 2 wins last year, subbing for Annette, and he's run really well, and I'm looking forward to him being a championship contender this year. His average finish is 8th. He kind of finished 16th at Daytona, but 2 4th place finishes at Auto Club in Vegas, so he's very strong as well. There's a bunch of guys like Ty Gibbs. His average finish is 8.3. And then Allmendinger has definitely had the speed with 2 poles already this season. He's running really well, average finish of 6th. And he's definitely got speed. And then Allgaier's right there, up there in points too. Just really consistent. Finished 5th, 8th, and 5th. So those guys, JRM has always been strong in Xfinity. They got 4 guys in the top 9 in points, and then 2 Allmendinger and Daniel Hemrick for colleague racing. They have fast cars every week too. So it's one surprise is Anthony Alfredo is 8th in points right now. So that's really good to see. But one surprise for me is the RCR cars. Austin Hill's 10th after 2 rough races after Daytona. And then Sheldon Creed just hasn't had speed at all to go with the 31 that I think they have a partnership with RCR. So it's kind of disappointing for them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And before we move on to Cup, something that piggyback off to Richard Childress is The guy just sent 1 million rounds of ammunition to Ukraine this week. So, that is quite impressive because ammo is not cheap.
Very respectable. I even saw where he got on the news and talked about it. Like that's really big. Anything like that, I know it's not just about, making NASCAR look good or anything, but a huge thing for somebody like that to do something, go out his way and do something like that. Mad props for Childress. That's pretty freaking awesome.
Absolutely. All right, you guys ready to move on to the Cup Series?
Let's do it.
All right,
let's do it.
Cup Series. Start us off at Auto Club. Tennessee, what you got?
Let's see. Hold on. Let me pull up real quick because I got to get a fresh. Who won that race? Oh, it was freaking Larson. Duh. See, look. Hey, I'm struggling. That race was really exciting as well. You had, Tyler Reddick. I don't know if I want to talk about him, but hell of a race for him. I mean, him and Eric Jones were the class of the field for really over half of this race.
Yeah.
It was really crazy to see. And then the most unfortunate thing happened to Reddick, but it was a wild race through and through. I mean, you had the drama with the Hendrick cars at the end with Larson and Chase, and somehow, some way, that 5 car ends up stealing a win here, it feels like. So it was really exciting, though. The runs these guys would get and how many interesting guys we saw in the front. I mean, Austin Dillon stole a second place. Yep. Daniel Suarez came out of the middle of nowhere, almost won this thing. So extremely exciting race. It was a hell of a time.
Absolutely. That was one of the best races I think we have seen at Auto Club in a very long time. And, I mean, just look at the top 5. You got Larson first, Austin Dillon second, Eric Jones third, Suarez fourth, and Logano fifth. I mean, those are 3 very surprising drivers there, second, third, and fourth. And it was great to see Eric Jones back up there with that number 43, iconic number in the history of NASCAR. A car that has not ran the best in these past couple years. So, like we mentioned a couple podcasts ago with GMS joining Petty Motorsports, I think this might just be a little bit of a start that leads to a turnaround here for Petty. They haven't had the greatest of seasons for a while. He, finished third here at Auto Club. He led a couple laps. Vegas, he crashed out, but it was nice to see that 4-3 finally up there. You talked about Richard Childress and Xfinity, Nick. Well, Austin Dillon was able to sneak away with that second place finish at Auto Club. So it's kind of a tale of 2 different stories right now for Richard Childress. Their Cup Series is doing great. You just mentioned Reddick out there leading. Unfortunate events to him. And then in Xfinity, they're struggling. So it's just 2 different spectrums here.
Their Cup program so far has looked pretty decent. Now, especially Austin, I think, has gotten some good finishes, and Tyler, I think, has had more speed but hasn't had the finishes. No, with him getting a flat, that was his race, and that just really sucks to get a flat in that situation. Having a strong car like that all day, rim riding, I love the way he drives the car. But no, I think Tyler is going to be a threat. He's out of the out in 18th in standings right now, but he's probably right there with Austin Dillon. He should probably be in the top 10 with the car he's had the last couple races, not including Daytona. But right now in standings, we talked about before the season how it's going to be an interesting season. Like, we're not sure, how it's going to go, who's going to look strong. And so far, the first 2 races, bigger, track and Auto Club, and you got the Super Speedway, but that's anyone's race. And then you have Las Vegas, and that's a cookie cutter track. It's going to be interesting once we go to short tracks, and probably another month or 2 to see who's really strong. But you see the top 10. This is the top 10 right now. Kyle Larson, Chevy at Hendrick. Then you have Truex Jr. at Gibbs, Logano, Cindric, two Penske drivers, another Toyota driver, and Kyle Busch. Eric Almirola, which I would like to talk about him, running 6th right now in points, and his. Let me see real quick. Give me 1 second. His average finish, he has the best average finish in Cup right now, with 5.6, and he's the only driver left with 3 top 10s. So he has been very consistent in the best SHR car, which is crazy. It sucks that he's going to be retiring at the end of the season, but he's been the strongest one. Then in 7th, you have Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, and then 9th, you have Bubba Wallace. And then Austin Dillon, and then Kurt Busch. Brad Keselowski somehow is 12th in points. I don't know how that happened, but he is. He seems to be wrecking people or getting wrecked himself every week. So that's something. And then Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Eric Jones, and Kevin Harvick is your top 16 in points. So there's a huge mix of teams, drivers in there. It seems like there's no one strong team. It's not like Kyle Larson is pulling away from everyone in points.
Right.
He's only 6 ahead of Truex Jr. and then 9 ahead of Logano. So it's not a crazy spread right now, but it's a good mix of teams, drivers, and you see that on track too. You see Chastain up there running well at Las Vegas, and you're like, holy crap. And with a smaller team, like, you're not expecting that, but with the new car, it's definitely closed the gap. I think on some of these bigger teams, and no one's got a huge grasp on the car and is gaining any advantage right now. I think they're all pretty even, and you're getting a good mix of everyone up front.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to kind of go off of what you're talking about with that top 16, a couple of guys that I do want to point out, you mentioned Brad Keselowski, very aggressive to start the season out, caused several incidents at Daytona, and then, we ain't got to talk about it, but he spun out at Vegas, taking out Ryan with him. But some people I do want to mention is, you mentioned Eric Almirola. It doesn't get any better than this in your final season. Obviously, you want to go out winning, but like you said, he has got the best average finish over these first 3 races. So the dude is doing something right, especially sitting 6th. I mean, there is no Stewart-Haas racing car to be found until 14th. So he is definitely way above the rest of those Stewart-Haas drivers. And then you mentioned Harvick back there in 16th. Right now, the last driver to make the playoffs, if the playoffs started today. It's interesting to me because 2 seasons ago, if I'm not mistaken, the dude won, 9 races, 11 races?
Right.
Last season, winless. This season, he's kind of struggling in the terms of Kevin Harvick. So, how do you guys see him kind of turning his season around here?
Yeah, SHR so far has been extremely interesting. Like you said, Eric Almirola has been like the closer of the team. It feels like that car might not be the quickest off the truck, but every week so far, he's just kind of, you get to the end of the race, and you look at the top 10, and look, there he is. It's like, where'd he come from? The complete opposite for Chase Briscoe. It feels like every week he's usually came out pretty strong. He's qualified really well, then faded back. And on the complete opposite spectrum, then you got Kevin Harvick, who right now is probably their 3rd best car overall, which is really weird to say because Harvick's not really shown us anything this season. So I do think that will change. I think it's really early to look at points and sit here and judge. We talked a little bit before the podcast. Danny Hamlin's in 30th right now. He's 2 points ahead of Cody Ware. You've got Christopher Bell 29th, Justin Haley 27th. Suarez is 25th after some bad. Yeah, Burton's in 32nd. Tyler Reddick's 18th. He didn't in the playoffs right now due to some bad finishes. William Byron's 21st. You've got a lot of big names that have had rough starts that I don't think you could count out yet. It's really early. Just a couple guys had some bad starts. The one guy I'd probably be most worried about in the field though right now is indeed Kevin Harvick. He's the one guy that just hasn't really had as much speed as I really thought he would so far.
No, and I was really, expecting Haas because it seemed like last season Stuart Haas gave up on the season and they were strictly focusing on this year's next gen car, making sure that they were good to go. Well, something I want to point out here is everything that is happening in Russia. Well, Haas Formula One team, they dropped their sponsor Uralkali. They dropped one of their drivers and Nikita Mazepin. So my question here is, I know it's a completely different racing series, but it's going to be interesting to see if those decisions, because when you drop a sponsor, you're losing a ton of money. So it's going to be interesting to see if Stuart Haas Racing can still be competitive while they're trying to change some funds over to cover Formula One.
Yeah, that's the one thing that scares me a little bit about Stuart Haas. I mean, you look at their drivers, Chase Briscoe got, I can't think of their name right now, to come on full time this year. Harvick obviously has a lot of big sponsors like Subway and Busch. And Eric Almirola has, what is it? Smithfield, thank you. But Cole Custer doesn't really bring them a whole lot of money. No. A lot of times you'll see his car have just Haas's tools or whatever, just a really, it's just money coming out of the building itself. So, and now that F1 is also losing its sponsor, it's worrisome that they're starting to lose money. And I think that could really hurt them. Right now is like the key moment. I mean, you need that money. Whoever gets the handle of this car first is going to take off this year. And the last thing you don't want right now is not having the money to be able to try to do that. So it's a little worrisome. I wouldn't look in too much, but it is worth noting about Stuart Haas.
Absolutely. And then you got to look to next season with Almirola, retiring. You've got to wonder. I know Smithfield released a statement that they have not made a decision on whether they are returning or leaving. They just want to focus on getting Almirola the best finish possible this season. But that's something else you got to keep in the back of your mind is they're potentially losing another big sponsor in the NASCAR side as well next season.
Yeah, it's not looking too great right now. I mean, I think Chase Briscoe is the only guy they have in their entire field that I could see. Well, besides Harvick, but for future, I think he's the only guy that has the ability that could eventually become a championship hopeful with some development. So you kind of worry. I mean, you look at the people they have lined up. I mean, you've got Ryan Preece looks destined to eventually be in something for Stuart Haas. Riley Hurst. I mean, he has backing from Monster, but I doubt they follow him to Cup. I mean, they already sponsored Riley Hurst. Did I say it right?
Who?
Did I mess it up again?
Riley Hurst.
Herbs. My bad. I don't know why I said his last name like that. Leave me alone, okay? Anyways.
He literally pronounced every single letter.
Name and you add an A. What the
hell? Don't, whatever, okay? The point being, I don't think he's going to bring a lot of money in. You almost look at Haas, and I think there's a good chance that they really go out for a big splash in next year's offseason. Try to bring a guy that brings in a bunch of funds. Hopefully they can find the funds this season, but yeah. Gosh, y'all got me sidetracked. My bad, okay? Leave me alone.
All right, let's move on to the Vegas race. This was one of the best Vegas races I have seen in several years. Most of the time, Vegas is an absolute snooze fest. But with this next-gen car, these drivers have got to really work to keep that car under control. And we saw a lot of single-car spins. And we've seen where Brad Keselowski lost it, took Ryan with them. And we saw a lot of big saves as well. From Larson, where he just about, I don't remember who he was underneath, but he just about took him out. So one thing I really do like about the next-gen car is these drivers have got to work a lot harder, and it showed a lot there at Vegas.
Yeah, no, it's good to see it. I know they spoke about it a few times, especially Clint Boyer in the booth, talking about how it reminds him of the car from like '06,
Mm-hmm.
around there, that era of car. No, you have to work every single lap. No, I think they did an excellent job on the car so far. We'll see how it does, on other track types, but the fact that it performs so well on a cookie cutter track that are usually just, you turn it off halfway through because it's so boring,
Mm-hmm.
and or you turn it back on with 5 laps to go, and no, the whole race was exciting. You got cars all over the place, up top, on the bottom, middle, and then how it gets through the bumps, is interesting. It definitely creates some problems for drivers, and them trying to manhandle the car, is something that even the drivers wanted to do. So the fact that they are like, hey, let's put it back into the driver's hands, and when we talked about it at the beginning of the season, the ones that can handle it the best, are going to be up front. Um, no, with the dirt track experience, you saw Christopher Bell up there, yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and he spun and had a flat, but then he actually came back and had a decent finish. So then you have Kyle Larson up there, which I figured he keep going where he left off last season, and with the new car, he seems to be getting the hang of it. Especially just Hendrick in general. I think every time they go to a new car, they kind of are ahead of the field in that sense. But definitely the car has made the field closer in general, with how many different drivers we're seeing. No, you wouldn't think to see Eric Jones up front, or you see Ross Chastain up front, or Tyler Reddick the last couple races up front. You don't usually think of those guys, and now you kind of have to think about them.
Mm-hmm.
And some drivers you think would be up front aren't up front, like Kevin Harvick or Denny Hamlin. Those guys have dominated the last few seasons, and they're on the outside looking in. So it's definitely created some interesting racing. The fact that the side draft isn't as prominent as it used to be, you could just see that just looking at different battles all over the track. It's night and day. You can definitely tell the difference of how the side draft works and just the runs they're getting. I think it's a really good change, that NASCAR needed to make, and hopefully it brings back that style of racing we had in the early 2000s.
Absolutely. What you got, Tennessee?
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the new car. Like Nick said, you have a lot of guys that we didn't really, I guess, predict that would be running near the front each week. And so far, it seems like with this new car, it's making it a lot more likely one of those mid-pack teams can run up front. I mean, we saw, I wouldn't consider Richard Childress one of the big teams in NASCAR, but I mean, Tyler Reddick was by far the quickest driver at Auto Club. I mean, and Eric Jones was P2. Those are a couple of teams we don't see near the front all that often. Ross Chastain, I'm not gonna try to be biased too much and talk about him too much, but he had a hell of a run last week or this week at Las Vegas. I mean, guy won a stage and was top 5 car all race long.
Debatable.
And so, what do you mean debatable? That was whatever. Point being is, you're seeing these guys come out, and you're seeing new guys near the front, and I think that's always good for NASCAR as a sport. So hopefully we continue seeing that, because it's going to give a lot of teams the chance to improve their team and get to the point that maybe a couple of these teams at the top won't be at the top anymore. Maybe we'll see a new competitor for them in the future.
Nope, I absolutely agree with both you guys. You guys got anything else you want to add about the Cup Series?
I do want to say the race as a whole, we didn't really get much into the race. I feel bad for Kyle Busch because I do think overall he was the quickest driver. I mean, yes, my bias wanted a last caution because I don't like Kyle Busch, but the fact that that dude went to a backup car, Joe Gibbs worked as a team to put that backup car together in 8 hours overnight, and then he had probably the fastest car of the race and should have won this race. Really sucks that he kind of got that one stolen, but I will give a round of applause to Hendrick. That's a hell of a team move. If any of those drivers decide not to do 2 tires, none of them win. It was a truly team win. You don't see that a whole lot in NASCAR, it seems like. So I do want to give props to Alex Bowman. The man always seems to be stealing these wins, but you got to give credit where credit's due. Congrats to him on winning the race.
Got anything, Nick?
Yeah, I agree with 10. I think if caution didn't come out, Busch was going to win that race, and they talked about it in the broadcast, and it was just awesome that they turned around a car that had Hamlin's name in the back window, with nothing on it, no engine, no seat in it, nothing, and they took everything out of that primary and put it in there, wrapped it, and got it ready to race the next day. That's just crazy how they can do that. I think with the 2 tires, it sucks that the caution came out and took that one away. But no, shit can happen at any moment. Like, caution can come out anytime, anything can happen, and it's just racing. You're always and it was a strategy move in Hendrick's part. If you do 4 tires there, you're gonna restart 10th or so back where you were, and you're gonna be in the same position that you were. So to take 2 there and get in front of everyone, it was a gutsy call on their part to take the 2, and then the fact that they both were side by side pulling away from Kyle Busch and others. It was crazy to see that, and just them side drafting each other, just kind of pulling even, but no one getting away. It was a great race. It was a great ending to the race. Great entertainment product. And congrats to Bowman. He does luck into some of these wins, but you gotta, like 10 said, you gotta give credit where credit's due, and great strategy by Greg Ives on the team, and they made it work, and he got the win, so you can't take that away from them.
Absolutely not. One last thing I want to point out is we saw it at Auto Club. Crews struggling with their pit stops. I mean, no more than Ryan Blaney's crew. They were absolutely struggling to get, and it wasn't just one tire that they were struggling with. It started where they were having trouble getting the right front off, then it was the left rear, and then it went to the right rear, and then the left front. And it was great to see them finally get that turned around at Vegas last week, but we always talk about how the drivers are having to deal with this change. We don't really talk a whole lot about the crew members during the pit stops having to deal with it. Well, that was a prime example there at Auto Club with Blaney's crewman. Just, I don't know if maybe it was a lack of practice or what the deal was, but it showed that, hey, we get used to these crew members. They're used to doing 5 lug nuts per tire. You would think that 1 lug nut now would be a lot easier and a lot simpler, but it just showed just how difficult it still can be to be a tire changer.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that this is a team sport. I mean, it's not just, the guys being quick. I mean, they had to go down pit road, and they have a whole team that if they mess up can ruin a driver's day. I mean, we saw it at Owl Club, like you said. Ryan Blaney's pit crew did him no favors in that race, and neither did Eric Jones's. I really think Eric Jones's pit crew really cost him a chance to win that race, because it seemed like every time that car pitted, both of them would lose like 8 spots on pit road, and that's just unacceptable. So having a pick, I mean, we saw it last year. Kyle Larson, even though we all know he was the fastest car last year, he won the championship because of his pit crew.
Oh, absolutely.
It came out because of his pit crew. So you got to remember how important pit crews are, and a pit crew can truly end your day. And I think we're starting to see it a little bit now is these guys aren't fully adjusted to the new one lug. Because even in Xfinity and truck, I forget what broadcast they talked about it. I mean, they're still doing 5 lug nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these pit crews, I think Joe Gibbs is the only one that isn't doing it. Some of the crews for Cup are still going to the lower series and doing the 5 lug nuts and then doing the Cup with 1. I think Joe Gibbs is the only team that has a complete different crew doing that. And I think that might be messing with some teams. So maybe something to watch out the rest of the season if other teams follow what Joe Gibbs is doing and make the Cup crews only do the 1 lug nut stops for the team. But yeah, we're definitely seeing it early on that it's not just the drivers adjusting, it's still the pit crews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, no, obviously they have practiced this all throughout the off season. I'm sure, no, it's still fairly new, and they've had 3 weeks to do these stops now. No, you've seen issues with, the gun itself, tire issues. I'm wondering what they're going to do to fix some of the tire issues with like flat tires, or if they're going to go back to the old rims, or what, or Goodyear making a new tire, or what they're going to do. But yeah, there's been some issues with the teams, having clean stops, and I think it's just the amount of reps that they're doing. I think they'll all get it all cleaned up after, probably halfway through the season. They should, with the amount of practice they do on these stops at their shops, I think they should be fine. Obviously, it's a change of pace. These stops went from 12, 13 seconds to 9 seconds if you hit it really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just change of pace, and I think they'll figure it out. But yeah, just the tires themselves has been a mess in general. And then you got Hamlin trying to figure out how to shift again. So it's there's definitely some big changes this year, and it's not just team members and pit crews, it's drivers too. It's everyone adjusting to everything. So yeah, I think we're gonna be seeing issues like that all season long.
Absolutely. And let's move on to our final topic here for tonight. That is teammate scuffling. We have seen a ton of aggressive driving between teammates. At Daytona, it was Cindric and Blaney. At Auto Club, it was Larson and Elliott. And I thought for sure at Vegas, we were going to see a third team getting involved there with Busch and Truex. But obviously the caution came out and kind of ended that. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on just how teammates seem to be racing each other here to start this season?
Well, I mean, that's just racing, in my opinion. You're going to have moments where, having teammates is really important, working together and stuff. But once we get down in the, into these races, I mean, you really got to worry about yourself sometimes. And yeah, it's not going really well in, those Monday meetings for a couple teams right now. I mean, I know for a fact Ryan Blaney is still upset about Daytona, and I don't blame him at all. And I'm sure Chase Elliott isn't the complete happiest guy on the track either right now. But it's one of those things that you can't let it take down your organization. You can't let it ruin what's going on the track. The last thing you want, a guy on the track that's supposed to be your closest friend turn out to be one of your enemies, is the worst thing that could happen. So I'm sure these two teams both have, had a Monday meeting where they took those two drivers and sat them down and told them to talk it out. Because I'm not sure either. I mean, I don't think Cindric or Larson truly meant to, quote unquote, ruin the other one's day. I mean, I know Cindric's a little bit different. I mean, that was full on going for the win, but I don't think he was trying to necessarily tick off, Ryan. He would have done that to anyone. He was trying to win the race. And same for Larson. I don't think Larson meant to go up and hit Chase. based on what it sounds like the spotter gave it the info late, but I don't think Larson, anybody, it don't matter who it was, would just turn up right and slam somebody in the wall. So I understand both Chase and Ryan are, mad about it, but don't let it linger too much, or it could be costly later in the season. These guys are your friends, and friends are hard to find, so don't lose the friends you do have.
What you got, Nick?
I think with Cindric and Blaney, that's racing, coming down to the wire for the 500. You're going to block like hell, and that shit happens. Obviously, Blaney was disappointed and angry about that whole situation, which I would be too. With Elliott and Larson.
Here comes the bias.
Yep.
No. I think Larson. I think you just need clean air in that situation, and you're looking to get every position you can. Same with Elliott. He's trying to go around them both and get a 2-for-1 and trying to pick off both. He had a huge run and tried it. Larson blocked him and didn't work out. I think every position on track come playoff time is going to be a huge thing. And I think all these drivers, doesn't matter whether you're teammates or not, I think is going to be very important. And I think you're seeing everyone drive aggressively around each other this season. I think it's just product of the racing, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for the entertainment factor either. So, that's my thought on it. I think it's just hard racing at the end of the day. You're looking to get every spot you can, racing for wins. All those points at the end of the season, they add up. And, come playoff time, you're going to need every one of those points.
Absolutely, and we're going to end this podcast as we are closing in on the start of the Cup race. But we're going to end it with this one last question, just a one-word answer. No explanation on why, but going with Chase Elliott. Was that spin at the end of Auto Club intentional? Nick, yes or no?
Most likely.
All right, I can respect that being a Chase fan. 10?
Probably.
Yeah, I say yes on that 100%.
Oh, just look at his hands. Look at his hands.
He didn't look like he tried to save it at all.
No.
That just looked like he cut left and let it spin.
He went with it. But like we said, we are closing in on the start of the Cup race here in 20 minutes. So don't go too far from this channel, because we will be right back here with the to bring you guys the Cup race. But that is going to do it here for episode number 5, week 6 of the NEXXTCAR Racing League podcast. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you guys on the new time now on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. But like I said, Cup race coming up in 20 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to bring that to you. But thank you for